know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it in back bay. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Buku signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even have a deal, yeah, I battle through these.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Gianlutis, and guys, I think you know who this guest is. If you haven't checked out our videos in the past, you've been missing out because we have some incredible message already on the Once a Week YouTube. Guys, I give you Chris Kraft. He's an incredible leadership speaker, and we've been working together to put together some great messages for you guys to take with, to run with, to change the mindset, to grow with, whatever it may be. And guys, today, Chris and I, we got to talking, and we found this incredible piece we wanted to give you on always continuing to be a learner. So, Chris, I thank you so much for being here and putting together another message. Welcome.
No doubt, man. We were talking right before we hit record how this is starting to become a normal thing. We got to be careful. Right? This we have no clue where this could go, right? So for our listeners, welcome back, and feel free to go back and listen to some previous content from Billy G, and the ones that we've done and the ones that weren't necessarily me. But if you clicked on this, obviously you see value. You see value both to your own personal growth, personal development, and you also see value in what Billy G talks about, or maybe you've seen a previous conversation that Billy and I have talked about, and you see it. This is really the first thing I want to remind you and just kind of help you think about. What a lot of this comes down to, a lot of the stuff that Billy talks about and the guests that he brings on, what it really has to do is learning something new, but not just learning to apply. Learning to apply. We've talked about that before. And Billy, at some point, I'd love, maybe we should do a whole podcast at some point, a whole recording on just application, right? Because I feel like we all want, there's a certain point to where a lot of podcasters even, they almost want to become theoretical sages. They want to sit on their, and it's not even a criticism. It's just, if that's what they want to do, fantastic. I don't care about just learning knowledge for the knowledge sake. I want to learn something we can apply, that we can apply tomorrow, that I can apply to my marriage and make it better, that I can apply to my ministry at church and make it better. So I hope that that's what you've tuned in to do, as our listeners have today. You're tying into this to make real application in your life. So are you cool if I just kind of dive in with the thought that we were talking about?
Of course, yeah, run right with
Let's do it. So let's give a little bit of a let's do a little history lesson real quick. So the way that business has always worked when it comes to the age that we're in, there was the agricultural age where everybody were farmers. Nothing wrong with being a farmer. It's an absolutely fantastic thing. In the middle of the 2000s, 2021 is where we're at now. Most people don't want to become a farmer for the money. But back 150 years ago, you did. It was kind of where the business trends were at the time, and it's even where they were going. Then the industrial age happened, where it was the idea that you needed assembly lines, you needed a big building, you needed a lot of employees. So it kind of moved from an entrepreneurship side, where around the year 1900, turn of the 20th century, 80 to 90% of people were entrepreneurs, 10 to 20% were employees. Then you come to the industrial age, you got your big business where 10% were entrepreneurs and 90% were employees. And you needed to go into the office, into the assembly lines for the industrial age. Then the cell phone comes out. Then the iPhone comes out. And then a lot of these new creative things in the technological age started happening. We start becoming interconnected. But it's interesting because even though all technology was moving at a faster pace than ever existed, the business world, for some reason, was still stuck in the industrial age. If you look even 2 years ago, pre-COVID, right now we're still, as in February 2021, we're still kind of fighting through a lot of the current COVID situations. Just look pre-COVID. Businesses would have never thought to send their staff home and have them work from home. They would have had all the reasons why, and all the reasons would have been industrial age thinking reasons. Not a criticism, just kind of a fact of where the world was. COVID happened. Now all of a sudden we have to send our people home. Are we going to shut down, or are we going to keep going and figure out how to do business in a technological age way?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened. I work for a nationwide bank, and I've been working at home for almost a year. March will be a year that I've been working from the house. Guess what? Because we're able to.
Yeah.
We're able to. That is the trend that's here, and that's the trend that will continue. So let's take all this into the realm of learning, into the age, into the again, if you're on this call, it's because you want to learn new knowledge and apply. So there was a previous idea when it comes to knowledge and learning and teaching, that your goal was to input all the knowledge you could. You go to school, you do self-education, and I'm all for all those things. But the ultimate goal was to create your own brand. It was about me. It was about my empire, not even necessarily in a selfish way. I don't want this to come across as this is a bad thing. Just follow me completely here. It wasn't as much about building things with, it was let me build my empire. And we still to this day see multi-million dollar businesses in a person's name. And again, not a negative thing, just keep following. So it wasn't as much about building together, right? It was about kind of a structure where the people on top kind of built employees. And it was so that's the age of 20, 30 years ago. Come into the age of social media, come into the age of networking that was never imaginable decades ago. And people would have never thought that you could put a thought out there, hey, I'm hungry, I'm going to grab a pizza on social media, and you get hundreds of views, right? Of something that's not substantial in the least. Right. So what people have started to do, the trends of today, is building things as a community. It's linking arms, still using individuality, right? To be able to build, there's nothing wrong with building your own brand. Billy G's doing that. He's building his, and by the way, go check out his website. You need to see what he's doing, right? But what he's also doing is taking advantage of the power of networking and community on the side to help link arms with people like me. He was just telling me a story that he's got some other contacts and people that are going to be increasing the content. That's the business trends. That's the learning trends. That's the teaching trends of today. It's not just Billy going, I'm going to put out all these podcasts. Notice what he's doing on these once a weeks. He's bringing in people that are not, people have the wrong mindset. They think, well, they're smarter, they're richer, they're fill in the blank, they're more successful. No. This is the power of community. This is leveraging, Napoleon Hill called it a mastermind. When you bring different people together, you actually come up with ideas that you could not have thought of separately. That's the trends that are coming. So really the main idea that I wanted to throw out is the danger of being an expert. And then Billy, I want to throw it back to you, especially about the idea of building your own brand versus the power of building with community. Actually, why don't we do that before I go into the expert thing? Because I'd love to hear your thought process on that, because you're a great example of this. You're doing both. You're not just trying to build your own thing because you were taught by Tony Robbins and under that umbrella. So you see the value of individuality, yet maybe you can speak to the idea of you see the value in building other things with other people who are going the same direction that you're going. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, no, I completely agree with everything you just said. Even taking it back to the industrial aspect, because if you think on the business world and the industrial aspect, you're right. Everyone was going to the office. Everyone was filing, doing everything they needed to do for the job. And now it's a completely different world. If you think about it, that also goes hand in hand with how school continues to go, at least in the United States. It's an industrial aspect. That's why if you go into a classroom, it is set up like a factory line. You have kids in the seats, just as a factory would, and then you have the one person directing them, guiding them the entire way. And that's just how it worked throughout history, so we continue to do it today. Nothing wrong with it. However, how it connects to becoming the expert and always being a constant learner, for that matter, is in building your own brand, you need to break away from that same mind thinking of the old day. And, I completely agree with the community aspect. You need to build your own brand. You need to reach out. You need to network more. How that starts is following what your skills are, what your talents are, what your gifts are, what your dream is, for that matter. And when you step out to do that, I think that's the first step in building the brand, because people look at you as the individual. How you grow that comes exactly what Chris just said with networking and getting people to link arms with you, quote for quote, what he just said. So I'm 100% on board for that. And when building the brand, if you have the money, you can get yourself to a high level. For most people, when they started on their dream, the income is, could be at a low level for that matter. You got to be able to get yourself out there and put yourself out there. You got to reach out to others. You got to see, me and Chris, I think it was LinkedIn. We met each other, and we sat there and it sparked a conversation because one of us put the other out there and said, hey, let's talk about you. You talk about me, and we see where it goes, to now where we're building value together, where we're linking up in different ways to help each other grow. That's where the world's becoming. So you're 100% right. It is breaking away from the industrial age to the technology age, but also the community age, which it's no way it can be my singular life anymore. I work in the psych field as well. I see what happens to people's minds when it's just them, and so when you break away from that and you surround yourself with people, you constantly grow, AKA coming back to constantly learning, which is, again, Chris, I'll throw it back to you, but that's our message right there.
It really is. And so we talked before, and I think if you've listened to any of Billy G's messages, his once a week, even his website, he's very big into constantly learn, constantly take more. The person you're at today is not your full potential. Bring out your full potential. All of these things are so incredibly valuable. But here's a message I want to bring to you today. Quit focusing on becoming an expert. Chris Brady, one of the top CEOs in the world, top 50 leadership expert, according to Inc. magazine, recently said in a seminar that I was at, he said, here's the problem people have. They think that the learning curve is that you're ignorant, you learn, and then you become an expert. He said, but actually, that's just hypothetical. That's just something that people came up with. He said, but when you really look at the psychology of it, it's actually ignorance, immersion, and you start learning. But then if you start considering yourself an expert, something changes in your mind. And I've seen this happen time after time. First of all, somebody stops having a mentor, right? They stop, and we'll come back to that in a second. They stop having a coach. They stop having a mentor. But what happens is they start thinking, I've got it. I've got it figured out. This whole leadership thing, I got it. This whole life coaching thing, I got it. Like that. So they start becoming an expert. What happens is their knowledge actually starts to decrease because they stop the learning process.
Yeah.
I've got to plug this book, Launching the Leadership Revolution by Orrin Woodward and Chris Brady, is the best leadership compilation book that I've ever seen in my life. And their first level of leadership, similar to Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership and everything else, but they call it the learner, because you never leave level 1. If you ever leave level 1, then you're no longer really able to teach. So the idea of never become an expert is simple. If you ever stop learning, first of all, from a mentor or coach, and second of all, your own self-education, then you kind of forfeit the ability to lead anyone. Right? So that is one of the dangers of being the expert. And the whole idea of avoiding a mentor or a coach, another book, Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute, is one of my favorite of all time, because one of the things they talk about is self-deception is probably the most dangerous type of deception in the world, because you aren't aware that you're in it, or you're not aware you have it. So the value of a mentor or a coach that could come in a simple form as a book, right? But really it needs to come in a person who can really, because the point of what it is, it shines a spotlight on your blind spots, right? That's the purpose. When my wife and I do mentoring, our goal is not to fix anyone. We try not to give advice, right? We try not to tell people what to do. It's simply going, hey, have you ever thought about this? Yeah. It's helping someone reframe. But the problem most of us have, and let me just speak to it on this side. I see this happen in the spiritual world all the time. People learn something about God. They learn something about the Bible. They learn something about a spiritual subject. And there comes a point where they stop learning more. And Brady actually said it this way. They change into an expert. And this is what happens. their mindset shifts from learning into convincing everyone of what they know.
Yeah.
Now I have to quote, teach all the idiots what I know, unquote, right? Like I kind of have to help all these people who just don't know. Now I got to help. There's another book when it comes to spiritual growth by A.W. Tozer called The Knowledge of the Holy. It is one of the best books on the attributes of God that I've ever seen, because his whole point was taking the extremes that Christians fight about all the time and basically coming in the middle and going, hey, neither of you are right.
Yep, exactly.
The mystery of God is beyond your understanding. Quit trying to figure him out.
Yeah.
There are certain attributes. I'm going to bring this back to business and leadership in a minute, but the attributes of God that he's made fully known, that's what we know about God. And when we start assuming that we know more than we know, and he talks about Calvinism versus Arminianism, and if you know, you know, if you don't, just ignore this part. But the idea that Christians have been fighting about for thousands of years, and he basically says this: if you ignore either of them, it's not an either or, it's both and. There's scriptures to back up both.
Exactly.
So if you take either extreme, you're actually ignoring the scriptures that talk about the other one.
Yep.
He said, so the mystery of God says he's both, and you'll never be able to fully comprehend it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's bring this back to business and leadership for a minute. Anybody who thinks that they can master leadership is already in self-deception. Probably has no mentor, has no coach, and has become that dumb expert who has stopped learning themselves. And they're actually on the downward swing. So the idea is always be learning. And I know sometimes that can sound like a broken record, but let's be honest for a minute. The only ones that it sound like a broken record to are people who need to come back to learning. Like I've heard it said, if you hate hearing about the dream, then it's probably because you need to refresh yours. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same way with learning. If this bothers you, that, oh my gosh, you're back to constantly learning, then I would challenge that you're probably not learning. Because if you've noticed, I've given 5 or 6 book suggestions in the last few minutes.
Right.
Because and that's not even credit to me. I'm just a hungry student.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert at all. I'm just a hungry student that wants to share what I'm learning. The reason Billy and I are doing several of these is because we're both constantly learning. And when we learn something, it's like the book of Jeremiah in the Bible says, it's like fire shut up in my bones. That's what new learning becomes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So let me toss this back to you. When it comes to becoming an expert, because I know you've seen this. I know you've done coaching with people who are so deep in self-deception that they may consider themselves experts in areas that everybody around them can see. One more quick note. I've had an experience where I had everybody in my life tell me that someone who I was dating was not the best for me. I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I was in some self-deception, and I thought, maybe everybody else around me is wrong. And that's what it is. Everybody else around me is wrong. I'm the right one. Right. And that's what we can think in self-deception. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you said. And self-deception, pride for that matter, when we get so much in ourselves, it clouds everything for us. And so that's where you start to become the expert. And I think if people think of themselves as an expert in something, that's cool. It's just that's not the level you stop at. You keep going. And Chris mentioned, I've got the Tony Robbins background and everything. And even him, who if you don't know who he is, look him up. You could say he's top of the world. And every single seminar he does, he's teaching something new. Why? Because he's learning something new. And even with me, when I go to my own life coaching clients or I do my own seminars and everything, truthfully, there's a basis of every seminar that's similar, but there's also a basis of every seminar that's different, because in the process of getting to the next one, I learned something else that could help someone else I can incorporate into it. So you got to be able to sharpen the edge. And it comes back to the community aspect. Chris threw out scripture, I'll throw out scripture. With iron sharpens iron. When you're around other people, and Chris has knowledge that I don't have. But if I go to Chris, it sharpens me up because I learn from him and he learns from me with what I can bring to the table. So it all builds off each other. But, I think it's so cool that you bring up scripture and you bring up God with this example. And not that people need to be spiritual. If you're not spiritual, just take this message for what it is, where God's the perfect example for it, because we are told that you can't fathom him, but we all still try to, meaning we're also trying to learn. And if we're also trying to learn about God, but we can't fathom it, it's an incredible goal to have. But that means that as I can learn about this direction, I can learn about this direction, I can learn about this direction, I can learn about that direction. We're never going to know all of it, but the more we learn, the farther we get. And that's why we're not experts, taking it. So much scripture comes out when we do these videos, but, even Jesus, he says, he's going to sit down and be the servant. He's going to wash the feet, meaning he will come down to the level to meet someone else at. And if we step down off our own pedestal we put ourselves at, or put other people at for that matter, and we come down, we're able to learn more to continue to get to a higher level. And
exactly right.
It all comes together. But I think it's tough for people to get out of that self-deception, that pride, when they say you're not meant to be an expert. It's not that message. I hope people become experts at something and then shift to what else they can be an expert at, because if you stop learning, Tony used to say this to us in our seminars or our teachings, and it was, if you stop, what happens when you stop growing? And I'd sit down, I even use it in my own seminars. I ask everyone, first question, probably very straightforward answer, what happens if you stop growing? You die. And at the end of the day, how do you continuously grow? I don't care what your age is. How do you continuously grow? To learn. That's why my life coaching clients, my newest one I just started with the other day, the first thing I told them, like, hey, I'm probably going to give you homework assignments that work on between now and the next session. Number one, if you really want to change your life, I want you to think on and brainstorm something that you want to learn about, something that you want to grow with, a book, an audio, a YouTube video for that matter, a podcast right now, something to learn with, and take that into the next session. We're going to build on it. I'm like, oh, well, why should I do that? I was like, because I got to sharpen your edges. And if there's something that you want to grow with, that could be something completely, this person changes his life. I'm going to help you do that. You want to learn about something else? Pick anything. You want to learn about scuba diving? You go to the library and get yourself a scuba diving book, but we're going to learn that. And as long as you continuously learn these edges, you're going to shine. And I think if people want to be an expert, they're trying to shine. The only way you can shine is to polish yourself off with a book.
Yeah. But let's modify the words we're using, and maybe it'll come into focus a little bit more, because let's use the word mastery.
Yep.
Because mastery is a better word when we're talking about skills.
Yeah.
Expert to me is more of a term when it's something you've become. Like it's the sage, it's the top of the pyramid, right? It's kind of one of those. I think that might be a better word, because everything you just mentioned and everything I just mentioned really had to do more with skills. We're learning people skills. We're learning scuba diving. We're learning leadership. Right. So we should definitely focus on mastery of skills. Tiger Woods has been golfing forever. He could be said he's at the top of the mountain. Guess what he has? He has a swing coach. Still to this day, he's working on mastery of his craft. So exactly what Billy said. So and again, one of my favorite things too is, even when we're talking, guess what? Billy and I shouldn't agree on every single thing, because if we do, we really can't sharpen edges.
True.
Right. So in what I think in one of these videos, we're going to go, let me throw out now, how do we disagree? We agree to disagree in a kind, respectful way. That's a whole nother podcast, because people don't know how to do that today. Right. But here's the crazy part. What we're saying is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And we can talk about semantics, but the idea really is, yes, become a master of a field.
Yeah.
Don't consider yourself an expert. Is maybe a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Just don't consider yourself, oh, I'm all that,
right,
and a bag of chips, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between cockiness, and this is what I tell people. There's a difference between being cocky and being confident. Confident is knowing what you know. Cockiness is the need to push other people down to prove what you know.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm very confident in what I know. in the things that I'm working to master. However, I have no need to push you or any of our listeners down to prove what I know.
Exactly.
Right? That's the difference between confidence and cockiness. So basically what we're saying here is continue the learning process in anything you will learn. A different field, even other than spirituality, because I want to throw this out, is my marriage.
Okay.
I want to master being a good husband. What does that look like? I want to learn something new about my wife all the time. You know, when husbands get in trouble and marriages get in trouble, and I'm just going to speak to husbands because I'm a male, right? Is when we no longer want to learn about our wives. This is a personal opinion, just from what I've seen over the years, is when husbands get bored in their relationship and they stop pursuing their wives, when they stop learning more about their wives. Guess what? I've been married to my wife for 15 years. I'm still learning things. Why? Because I'm trying to. You should enter, just a quick little marriage talk here. If you stay in your marriage like you're digging for buried treasure, there's something valuable. I'm going to find out more. I'm going to dig up more. I have not mastered that. I am not an expert in this, but what I know is I'm in the process of mastering being a good husband by constantly looking for buried treasure. And you should do that in every one of your friendships and relationships. This ties all the way back to the beginning when we talked about community. What if you decided to extend the community and network of people you know, and every time you did, you tried to learn more about them? Think about the quality of relationships you're going to have in the year 2021 if you enter into every one of your relationships like you're looking for buried treasure. Again, I'm working on this. I'm still a work in progress when it comes to this, but that's where I want to be. Right? That's where I want to be, because Billy G is a life coach, but even he needs coached. Even he keeps reading, right? So me as a husband, I just heard a talk from Orrin and Lori Woodward, one of the best marriage talks I've ever heard. Why? Because I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm working on mastery of my craft. And I don't ever want to be an expert in my own head. Right? I don't ever want to think that I've arrived. So really, if we were going to call this podcast something, it might just be Never Arrive. I'm not saying that's a name, but that's really what we're both saying. Never arrive in your relationships. Never arrive, because really when you arrive at the apex of a mountain, there's nowhere to go but down.
That's cool.
So never arrive. Never, I'm there. I'm the best husband I could be. I hate it for you. That means you're just going to get worse from here.
That's
so
a good way to put it.
Instead of even using the lingo, and I love how we work this whole podcast trying to figure out exactly how to say what we want to say. But I think this is where we can sit on master your craft, whatever it is, and never arrive. Never arrive. I think that's a good summation. I'd love to hear your summation of it, man.
No, I love that. And the first thing you said when I passed it back to you sparked something with me, and then you kind of built on it. Never arriving. I completely agree to that. I think every single person is trying to get somewhere. 100% true. I'm trying to get somewhere. Chris is trying to get somewhere. We're trying to get to a goal that we have in our head on what it's supposed to look like for marriage, for life, for whatever it may be for the listener right now. The coolest thing about how life unfolds is that we're supposed to let it unfold. You're supposed to take your step, meaning pick the book up, meaning call that person, meaning take the step for that job, whatever it is. That's all a learning process where you're taking an action step. You don't have to read to learn, you live it out. But life itself is meant to unfold before us. And when we have these images in our head of what it's supposed to look like for Chris's example with marriage right there, he doesn't know what the destination is, but he's going to keep digging. He's going to keep digging for the treasure because he knows it's just better, So that's I
know which direction I want to go in.
Exactly.
So I'm going that direction.
Exactly. Yep. You don't know what it's look like, but you know where you're going and you know it's good. Yep. And if people can take that and run with it, where you're not necessarily trying to arrive somewhere, you're trying to just grow into something better. That's the unfoldment that is life. That's the unfoldment that is spirituality. That's the unfoldment that is this video right now, where whatever area you're trying to move in, whatever the listener is trying to do. I don't care if you're a 4-year-old kid. I don't care if you're a 94-year-old man and you're listening to this video right now. Just start, start learning, start picking something up, start something new, start a new skill, a new trait, and just see where it takes you. But don't stop. No matter how good you get. I don't care if you're a basketball player and you're at the same level as Michael Jordan. You're not there yet because you got to be better than Michael Jordan, so it has to unfold the way it unfolds for you. But something, Chris, you sparked me with is you always got to keep learning. What's been the message? But I remember saying in my seminars to everyone, in my experiences as a life coach, as a therapeutic mentor, working with younger clientele, I'd have 7-year-old clients and I'd have these long sessions with them and try and connect with them, trying to build rapport, trying to help them with whatever they're struggling and going through in life, whether it's family, depression, anger, anxiety, whatever it may be. And I'd have these big talks with them, and the entire time they'd be on the edge of their seat trying to listen to me, but I'd be on the edge of my seat trying to listen to them, because I can learn something from a 7-year-old that I won't learn from a 90-year-old. And the 90-year-old can learn something from a 7-year-old they didn't know the entire 90 years of their entire lifespan. There's so much knowledge and there's so much wisdom out there in every single person that if we take the time to listen to someone else, if we take the time to grow with something that comes our way, oh my goodness, the door that opens up for your life is absolutely incredible. And that's why I try and take from every client. People come to me to gain the knowledge that I've learned or wisdom that comes out in sessions, which, that's not me, that's the big man upstairs. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to learn something from you just as much as you're trying to learn something from me.
Yep.
And that's what shows the beauty that is life unfolding for us, because you have something in you that is trying to come out. And the more you learn and learn and learn and learn, the more it shows, and the more people around you get better, coming back to community, because they're going to grow as much as you grow.
And that's also where maturity comes in.
Yes.
I believe it was Emerson that said, "Everyone is my superior in some way, and in that, I can learn from them." And if you decide you can't learn something from anyone, that shows a low maturity. If you decide you can learn something from a 7-year-old, that shows high maturity, because the more mature you become, the more you figure out that you have a lot more to learn.
Yeah, that's huge. It's a great way
Awesome.
to put a period on this video right there. That's awesome.
Good way to end it, man.
Yeah. No, but seriously, guys, if you're listening to this message and something sparked you, I know we went pretty deep really quickly with it, but take the message of, one, don't arrive, just grow. Don't arrive, just learn. Don't try to become the expert, just learn to become better. If you're better tomorrow than you were today, then you are a complete success. And that's all you need to take for one step at a time. And Chris brings this incredible message for us, and I can guarantee you this will not be the last message for you here from Chris, because we go so deep with these. But Chris, I thank you so much for being here. This is a great message. Guys, as always, like this message on YouTube. Look up Chris's other videos. I'll put them at the end of this video for that matter, so you can see them, because each one brings with it a different tool, keyword for the other messages, that you guys can take with you, just as this one was. Also, guys, share this message. If someone that you know feels that they're an expert and you're just like, hey, throw this their way, but also share it to someone that can learn from it. If we're saying anything about learning or community or trying to, build your brand for that matter, and you need to get people networking around you and trying to grow yourself, and a name dropped in your head when we said that, share this message directly to them. And guys, hit the subscribe button. Let's get that number up. Let's keep getting that number up to share these videos to more people so we can help more people. That's the whole goal. And always, if you or anyone you know is in need of a life coach, go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. I know Chris mentioned it a couple of times. You can see all the skills, the traits, the talents that I try to bring to you in every single one of our sessions to help you learn and get to the best person you can be. Not an expert, just constantly growing. But guys, go check that out. Set up a free consultation with me. I'll be right there for you. But Chris, I thank you so much for your knowledge and the wisdom that you bring in these videos, in these podcasts, because when you and I get together, something good has come out every single time.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
It's no problem, man. It's all about community, and I really love the direction we're both heading together. So I look forward to the next time.
Exactly. Next one's gonna be even better than this one. But thanks for being here, guys. Thank you, and go check out the other videos. All right.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it,